Why is American tourism in free fall? Places that were once thriving are now eerily quiet, with empty streets, shuttered businesses, and vacant hotel rooms. What happened to the bustling cities? What about the crowded theme parks? What about the iconic landmarks that once drew millions of visitors? Is it just about rising costs and long wait times? Or is there something deeper at play? Something tourists quietly avoid but are too polite to say out loud? Stick around as we take a look at 10 U.S. states where tourism is quietly collapsing, and why this could point to much bigger problems that no one wants to admit. Get ready for a shocking look behind the headlines. Number 1. New York. New York City, once the epitome of American excitement and culture, is facing a shocking decline in tourism. What used to be a non-stop whirlwind of tourists flocking to Times Square, the Empire State Building, and Broadway is now a city struggling to maintain its global appeal. But this isn't just because of fewer visitors. It's due to a profound shift in how the world sees the city that never sleeps. International travelers are turning their backs on New York, and the reasons go far beyond just rising prices. The rise in violence, especially in the subway and popular tourist areas, is creating an atmosphere of unease. Tourists no longer feel safe walking the streets, not even in broad daylight. On top of that, inflation is driving up the cost of living. $7 coffees and exorbitant hotel rates are pushing potential visitors to consider more affordable and safer alternatives abroad. Long wait times for visas are another deterrent, as travelers from around the world face frustrating delays that can turn a trip to New York into an unpredictable hassle. But perhaps the most surprising factor is the growing wave of anti-American sentiment. In many corners of the world, the image of the United States is becoming increasingly polarized. And New York, often seen as the country's public face, is suffering the consequences of this shift. Tourists are starting to ask themselves, is it worth the hassle to visit a city so closely tied to a country that feels more and more divided? The question now is not just whether New York can recover from a drop in tourism, but whether it will ever be able to regain its status as the world's top tourist destination. With millions of tourists staying away, financial losses are piling up, threatening the businesses and industries that rely on a steady stream of visitors. Can New York, the city that never sleeps, stay awake? Or is it entering a period of permanent slumber? But New York's problems aren't unique. A famous city in the desert is facing a similar struggle. And what's happening in Las Vegas might just be a preview of what's in store for the United States. Number 2. Nevada. Las Vegas, the dazzling oasis in Nevada's desert, is known for its boundless energy, flashing neon lights, and extravagant resorts. But the once vibrant city that never sleeps is showing worrying signs of wear. Tourism, the lifeblood of Las Vegas, is declining. And it's not just a drop in numbers, but a radical shift in the city's appeal. Rising hotel prices are driving away budget travelers, many of whom are finding that Las Vegas no longer offers the same value it once did. A $200 a night room now seems too expensive when you can get a similar deal in a safer, less chaotic destination. And safety has become a major concern for both visitors and locals. Crime rates have risen, especially in the areas surrounding the Strip, with reports of thefts and assaults tarnishing the city's image. For tourists, the idea of being mugged just a few blocks from luxury resorts is becoming a serious deterrent. But it's not just about rising costs and concerns over safety. There's something deeper. Las Vegas's international appeal is fading. Fewer and fewer foreign tourists are willing to make the long journey to the desert, preferring instead to visit other cities like Mexico City or Bangkok, where the experience is just as exciting but more affordable and safer. Now, a question looms on the horizon. Is the magic of Las Vegas fading away? Can a city built on excess and excitement reclaim its status as the entertainment capital of the world? Or is it on the verge of becoming a relic of the past? Next up, a state that once embodied the American dream but now feels more like a warning. California is facing its own challenges. And it's not just about the number of tourists. Number 3. California. California, the golden state that was once synonymous with sunshine, beaches, and endless possibilities, is quickly losing its shine. What happened to the state that once embodied the American dream? Instead of bustling coastal towns and vibrant cities, tourists are now avoiding California in favor of destinations that seem safer, more affordable, and less chaotic. One of the most obvious problems is crime. From San Francisco to Los Angeles, cities are facing a rise in crime that has caused concern among tourists. Streets that were once bustling with activity now host an alarming number of homeless encampments, creating an atmosphere that tourists don't want to walk through. If you add to that the exorbitant prices, from $18 hamburgers to $100 hotel rooms, it's easy to understand why many people are rethinking their vacations in California. The cost of accommodation in California has skyrocketed, and the appeal of sunny beaches and Hollywood glamour no longer justifies the expense. Tourists are asking themselves, is it worth the price? Should I pay more for a vacation that feels more like a hassle than a dream? Beyond the prices, there's a deeper and more troubling shift, a sense of discontent. California was once the epitome of innovation and forward-thinking, but now it feels increasingly polarized. For some, the state's progressive politics have gone too far, while others see it as a land of broken promises. This cultural divide is creating a sense of unease that not even the best PR campaigns can erase. The question remains, is the California dream over? The state's once unbeatable allure and fascination have been shattered by the very problems that once seemed distant. But it's not just California facing these challenges. Another state, famous for its sunny charm, now finds itself in the midst of political battles that are having a profound impact on tourism. The next destination is also in crisis, and it's one where families used to flock in droves. Let's take a closer look at Florida. Number 4. Florida. Florida, which was once the top vacation spot for families, retirees, and adventure seekers, is now facing a significant drop in tourism. While many associate the state with sandy beaches, world-class theme parks, and year-round sunshine, the reality is much less appealing for today's travelers. The reasons for Florida's tourism decline go far beyond the usual hurricane season. One of the most unexpected problems is the increase in algae invasions. Tourists who used to flock to Florida's pristine beaches now find acres of rotting seaweed, a stark contrast to the postcard-perfect beaches they once knew. For many, this is the last straw when it comes to spending their vacation money in Florida. The ongoing political battles have also created a rift between the state and its once loyal visitors. Boycotts of theme parks, especially Disney's ongoing clash with state leaders, are driving some families away. Visitors who once felt at home in Florida's theme parks now wonder if it's worth supporting a destination wrapped up in such a politically charged atmosphere. If you add to this the rising costs of hotels, food, and attractions, Florida is becoming an increasingly expensive place to visit. Climate threats are another major issue, with rising sea levels and unpredictable weather casting uncertainty over Florida's future. Tourists are asking themselves, will my Florida vacation be disrupted by a hurricane or flooding? The increasing frequency of extreme weather events has made some potential visitors think twice before booking a trip to the Sunshine State. So, what is really behind the decline in tourism in Florida? Is it just a matter of temporary setbacks? Or is there a deeper and more troubling shift in how people perceive the state? Will Florida be able to regain its former glory? Or is it destined to fade from the American tourism scene? But wait, Florida's problems are just one piece of the puzzle. A historic powerhouse in the Northeast is facing its own tourism troubles. And it's not just about the weather or politics. Number 5. Massachusetts. Boston, a city rich in history and prestige, is now facing a tourism crisis that few could have predicted. Once a bustling hub for international visitors eager to walk the Freedom Trail, explore revolutionary landmarks, and soak in the intellectual atmosphere of its Ivy League universities, the streets of Boston have become eerily quiet. What's going on? One of the main factors driving visitors away is the exorbitant cost of staying in the city. With hotel prices reaching new heights, many tourists are choosing more affordable alternatives in nearby cities or even skipping Boston altogether. What was once considered an ideal destination for a weekend getaway is now an expensive trip that few are willing to take. Beyond the price, Boston's increasingly polarized political climate is also having an impact. For tourists looking for a welcoming and neutral experience, the city's progressive image, while appealing to some, has become a point of contention for others. With protests and heated debates happening regularly, some visitors feel uncomfortable or put off by the city's political atmosphere, making them hesitant to explore everything Boston has to offer. However, the most significant blow is the decrease in the number of international visitors the city receives. Boston, which was once a regular destination for travelers from Canada and Europe, is now seeing fewer foreign tourists, and the numbers are plummeting. Foreign visitors, especially those from the United Kingdom and Canada, are choosing other destinations, leaving a gap in the local economy that many small businesses and tourism-dependent industries are struggling to fill. So, how did the city so rich in history and prestige, which once attracted millions of visitors, become a ghost town for tourists? What happened to Boston's status as a must-visit destination? Boston's decline could be a wake-up call for other regions that rely on tourism for their economic survival. And speaking of quieter destinations, the decline of the next state might surprise you. It's a place known for its peaceful charm. Number 6. Maine. Maine, known for its picturesque coastline, charming small towns, and tranquil atmosphere, is facing a tourism crisis more severe than expected. Once a popular destination for Canadian visitors, the state is now facing an alarming drop in cross-border tourism. In fact, Canadian visitors who once filled the streets of places like Bar Harbor and Portland are disappearing at an unprecedented rate. One of the main reasons for this change is the increasing difficulty of crossing the border. Heightened security measures, long waits, and bureaucratic procedures have turned what used to be a simple road trip for many Canadians into a frustrating and time-consuming experience. For those who relied on quick and easy trips to visit New England, the border complications have now become unbearable. In addition, there is the problem of visa delays. With processing times stretching to months, even those who have the time and money to travel are struggling to obtain the necessary documentation to visit the United States. This has led many potential Canadian tourists to look for other destinations, places where they don't have to go through bureaucratic procedures to enter. The depreciation of the Canadian dollar is another factor that complicates the situation. With an unfavorable exchange rate, traveling to the U.S. has become significantly more expensive for Canadian visitors. This, combined with the already high prices in the U.S. and the rising costs in Maine, means that many travelers simply no longer find the trip justifiable. Finally, concerns about safety also play a role. As news about rising crime and negative experiences from other travelers circulate online, some Canadians are starting to wonder if the United States is really a place they want to visit. So, what happens when your biggest neighbor stops visiting us? Maine's economy relies heavily on tourism, especially from Canadians. Without these visitors, the state faces a serious financial crisis that threatens local businesses, job markets, and cultural institutions. What happens to a state that has built its identity on international tourism when that flow decreases? Is this just a temporary drop, or is Maine's tourism future in serious jeopardy? The next state on the list faces its own problems, and it's one you might not expect. Number 7. Illinois. Chicago, a city once known for its towering skyline, its iconic deep dish pizza, and its vibrant culture, is now facing a tourism crisis that few could have predicted. The once bustling Magnificent Mile, a world-renowned shopping district, is now filled with empty stores and vacant storefronts. What happened to the Windy City? A global destination that used to attract millions of visitors every year. Crime is one of the key factors driving tourists away. Chicago has been struggling with rising crime, especially in areas that were once popular with international visitors. Tourists who once felt safe strolling through Millennium Park or along the River Walk are now reconsidering their plans, and some are even avoiding the city altogether. Concerns about safety have taken center stage in the minds of many tourists, and as reports of thefts and violent incidents increase, so does the reluctance to visit the city. The rising cost of living and travel in Chicago is another deterrent for tourists. Hotel prices are sky-high, and many travelers are choosing to stay in more affordable cities. Restaurant and entertainment prices are just as high, leading tourists to wonder if the experience is really worth it. But the real blow is the decrease in international arrivals. Chicago, which was once a popular destination for business travelers, conventions, and foreign visitors, is now receiving fewer international tourists. International arrivals have dropped significantly, with reports showing a decrease of nearly 9% in global visitors. This decline hits hard, especially in a city that relies on tourism to drive its local economy. So, is Chicago's bold skyline enough to attract tourists? Or is the city facing a permanent loss of appeal? What happens when the economic backbone of a city, the tourism industry, starts to crumble? And now we turn our attention to the Poconos in Pennsylvania, where a quiet tourism collapse is underway and the impact is being felt in the state's small towns. Let's take a look at how Pennsylvania's tourism sector is fighting to survive. Number 8. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, home to historic landmarks, breathtaking mountains, and charming small towns, is facing an unexpected tourism crisis. Once thriving destinations like the Poconos, Philadelphia, and Lancaster are now experiencing a drastic drop in visitors, and it's not just a seasonal dip. It's a worrying trend that threatens the state's tourism-driven economy. One of the main factors contributing to this decline is the growing concern over safety. Cities in Pennsylvania, including Philadelphia, have seen a rise in crime, which has led to a shift in how tourists perceive the state. What was once a peaceful, walkable city rich in history is now seen as increasingly unsafe. International travelers, in particular, are avoiding areas they used to frequent, worried about their safety while sightseeing. For tourists, the idea of exploring historic landmarks like the Liberty Bell or Independence Hall is no longer as appealing when concerns about crime persist. Rising costs are another blow to Pennsylvania's tourism industry. Hotel prices, restaurants, and local attractions have all become more expensive, forcing travelers on tight budgets to look for other destinations. The cost of a trip to Pennsylvania is starting to outweigh the benefits, leading many to choose more affordable destinations with fewer hassles and greater value. Number 9. Arizona. Arizona, once the favorite destination for Canadian tourists seeking sun and warmth during the winter, it now faces a serious decline in visitors. What used to be a thriving destination for tourists and winter migrants is now a shadow of its former self, with a sharp drop in the number of tourists who once drove its economy. The main reason for this change is the rising cost of travel. Airline prices are skyrocketing, and for many Canadians, flying to Arizona has become unaffordable. What used to be an affordable getaway is now a luxury, and travelers are choosing closer and more budget-friendly destinations. If you add to this the rising prices of hotels, food, and other vacation expenses in Arizona, it becomes clear why many people choose to stay home or go to more affordable destinations. Visa delays are another obstacle. While the United States faces delays and complications in processing travel documents, many Canadian tourists find it almost impossible to get their paperwork in time for their planned vacations. This has caused a lot of frustration and has made traveling to Arizona feel like a hassle instead of a getaway. Safety concerns also play a role. Reports of violent crime and tensions in certain areas of Arizona have made travelers reconsider their plans. In a state that relies heavily on tourism, these negative perceptions can have lasting effects on its tourism industry. If tourists feel unsafe, they won't come back and new visitors won't arrive either. And then there's the issue of the weather. Arizona's already hot summers are becoming more extreme, and concerns about water shortages, wildfires, and other environmental factors are starting to affect Arizona's appeal. Tourists who once saw the state as a desert paradise are now wondering if it's the ideal place for a vacation. So, will Arizona be able to weather this storm? Or is this the beginning of a tourism collapse? With a state economy so dependent on tourism, there's a lot at stake. Number 10. Hawaii. Hawaii, the crown jewel of American tourism, has always been synonymous with paradise. Pristine beaches, lush landscapes, and a laid-back vibe used to attract millions of tourists every year. But now, this tropical paradise is facing a massive drop in visitors, and the once thriving tourism industry is starting to show signs of collapse. The most obvious problem is the exorbitant cost of traveling to Hawaii. With flights to the islands now more expensive than ever, combined with high hotel rates, food prices, and even car rentals, the cost of a Hawaiian vacation has become prohibitive for many potential visitors. What used to be an affordable getaway is now a luxury destination, and for many travelers, it simply doesn't justify its steep price. Beyond the costs, there is a growing sense of discomfort among tourists. Hawaii, which was once a place where visitors felt welcomed by its rich culture and warm spirit, is now experiencing increasing tensions between locals and outsiders. Protests over responsible tourism, land rights, and environmental concerns are making some tourists feel like intruders rather than guests. The feeling of aloha that once made Hawaii such a unique and attractive destination is now overshadowed by a growing resistance to mass tourism. Environmental concerns are another major factor contributing to the decline of tourism in Hawaii. The island's fragile infrastructure and ecosystem are facing the consequences of excessive tourism, water shortages, damage to coral reefs, and even the threat of wildfires. Tourists who once saw Hawaii as an idyllic and untouched paradise are now questioning whether the islands are prepared to withstand the pressure of millions of visitors each year. Has Hawaii's idyllic image been shattered? The tropical getaway that once promised tranquility and relaxation has been replaced by uncertainty and unease. With the decline of these major tourist destinations in the United States, one has to ask, what does this mean for the future of American tourism? As more iconic destinations struggle to retain visitors, it's clear that the landscape of American tourism is changing rapidly, and the consequences could be much more serious than anyone imagined. And there you have it. The tourism crisis in the United States is real, and it's spreading faster than we thought. But what do you think is the main cause? Leave your opinions in the comments. We want to hear what you think. If you haven't already, check out our previous video to discover even more shocking information. And remember, all the effort we put into these videos is for you. So, subscribe. Just one click to stay informed and support our work.